Hi, my name is Özge and this is the presentation video of my Physics 102 lab project. Here you can see the outline of my presentation. First, I will explain the purpose of this experiment, then I will show you the equipments that I used in this experiment and I will explain their purposes. Also, I will explain the steps of my experiment and then I will show you the data that I obtained from my experiment and then I will explain the conclusion. Here you can see the purpose of this experiment. My purpose of doing this experiment was investigating the geometrical dependencies of a parallel plate capacitor. I focused on the I focused on the distance variable. I investigated how the distance between the parallel plates of the capacitor affects the capacitance of the capacitor. So here you can see the equipments that I used for my experiment. Here you can see the parallel plate capacitor and a multimeter and a caliper. I used the caliper to measure the distance between the plates and I used the multimeter to measure the capacitance. So I will explain the steps of my experiment. First, I set up the experimental setup. I connected parallel plate capacitor with the multimeter using crocodile wires. And also I used the calculator to calculate the equation, like the capacitance. Okay, and then I arranged the distance between the parallel plates of my capacitor and I arranged the multimeter. Then I changed the distance between the parallel plates of the capacitor accordingly and I measured the capacitance for each different distance value. And here I'll show you the data that I obtained from this experiment. Here you can see the first table. First table shows you the experimental capacitance and the distance values. You can see the distance values in meters in the first column and you can see the experimental capacitance value in nanofarads in the second column. So I did my experiment for 6 different distance values and I obtained 6 different capacitance values. And here you can see in the second table the experimental capacitance values and the theoretical capacitance values and the error rate between them. So in conclusion, I will explain the reasons of my errors, objective of this experiment and observations. So there were some things that cause errors. One of them One of them was that the plates of the parallel plate capacitor was not precisely parallel. That caused the error. And then air had some extra particles that obviously changed the dielectric constant for air. And then this experiment wasn't conducted in ideal conditions, so that actually. And then, also, I may not precisely measure the distance between parallel plates. That would have caused some errors too. So, my observations are this. When we increase the distance between parallel plates of our parallel plate capacitor, the conductance of this parallel plate capacitor decreases. So that's all. That was my experiment. Thank you.